Good morning, and thank you for this invitation, Dean Wilson, Director of the School of Journalism, Willow Bay, and Director of the School of Communications, Professor Sarah Benet-Weiser. I am Kim Moses, and I work at the intersection of television and digital media at a time when the entertainment industry is going through a huge shift. But you first. Stand up, graduates, everybody on your feet. Come on, you have some energy left. Congratulations, you are badass and beautiful. Everybody give yourself a standing ovation. Great. Now, sit down. Everybody sit down. And put it away, because nobody in the industry that I work in cares that you are badass and beautiful, unless you do badass and beautiful. I have a ritual that I do before I speak. I walk around as I did this morning, and I shake hands with as many people as I can, and I look in their eyes, but I look very deeply into their eyes. And I do this because I want to know, I want to be present for myself, and also I do it because I want to connect with you. You would be shocked at how many people in the entertainment industry don't know how to be present, don't make eye contact, and don't really listen. We are essentially an industry of giant tongues. Many people will talk until the next millennium. Don't do that. When you go out into the business world, you be present, because being present enables you to discover, and discovery is the real trigger for action. There's a big mindset in my industry. He who's fastest on the trigger wins. Wrong. A person succeeds because she knows what the hell she's talking about, because she's taken the time to discover, and moreover, she's probably let the other person talk first, and she's listened, and then she's had her say. And this is not about being polite. This is about giving yourself the advantage of discovering what the room is all about, and then taking control of that room. The other reason that I do this ritual is because that I'm interested in people's stories. I love stories. I devour stories. As an executive producer, a director, and a writer, I am a storyteller. And I tell stories every day, all day. To be a great storyteller, you have to be a great listener. You have to be open to discovery, right? So about the shift in the entertainment industry that I mentioned earlier, and frankly, if you're not aware of this shift, you must be living under a rock, because the shift isn't just happening to the entertainment industry. It's happening in every industry, advertising, marketing, all over the world. Every industry is shifting. And the thing that's driving it, the engine that's driving change, is technology. Old businesses are fighting to remain relevant and powerful, and new businesses are trying to get respect and a foothold. So there's this tremendous clash between the traditional and the untraditional. It's like a great action sequence between titans. And the problem is that we could all get crushed beneath their feet. So what does this mean to all of you? After the weekend and the parties stop, you've got your degree, your passport to the future. But how do you make the most of this access and springboard it into an industry that's in the throes of reinvention? Do it one step at a time. You get a job, a beginning, a start, somehow, some way. And chances are that you're not going to get the job of your dreams next week. That's not going to happen. But ride the wave that's there. Get off the beach and get into the ocean, or you might miss the most spectacular adventure of your life. And on that job, look around and see what needs to be done, and do it. Even if you're not told to, and do it better than anybody else. And I don't mean your peers, I mean do it better than anybody else that you're working with. There are a lot of talented people in my industry. There's also a lot of lazy people. People who would rather talk than do. Your job is to do, and you do it better than anyone else. And Believe me, they won't be able to live without you. And here's the quid pro quo. They won't be able to live without you, and it will provide you the path to discovery. Never close the door on discovery. One of my first jobs was on Capitol Hill. I worked for the Committee on Science and Technology. This was geekdom before anybody knew what it was. And Al Gore was on my subcommittee, and we held the first global warming hearings. Watching him go from that congressional committee hearing to an inconvenient truth was the most remarkable branding lesson I've ever had. Gore had a message. He used discovery to sharpen that message. He took that message to the masses on every level. He shared that message and he changed the world. That's badass and beautiful. At that point, I was working on Capitol Hill in a job, and it was a great job. I was making good money. I was traveling around the world, but I had a deep passion. I wanted to be in the entertainment industry. I quit my job. I moved to Hollywood. I took a PA job. I was 30 years old. Everybody I knew thought I had lost my mind. I took that job and I never looked back. There are instances when you're going to fail, you're going to fall right on your face, but you get back up and get in the fray. Challenge yourself to become a warrior, not to inflict harm on other people, but to do things intentionally. Focus your energy for maximum impact and influence. Be fearless and follow through with passion and power. And I know that sounds like a fortune cookie, but I'm telling you it works, because I'm standing here as evidence to this. I have 3 brothers, and the day each of us graduated from high school, my dad said, get out, don't fail, and don't come back. That didn't mean don't come home. It didn't mean you're not loved. What it meant was get out there and find your way in the world. What it continues to mean for me is that I have to go beyond the limits imposed by systems. And it means doing that purposefully. This is what I call transcending. You have to understand that I grew up in a town, small, dirt poor, in Pennsylvania. The town was Donora. And there are a lot of towns in this country like that. There are a lot of towns like this all over the world. And there are lots of kids who have never gotten out. Be deeply, deeply grateful that you're on the track that you're on. Remember that working at something you love is not inevitable. It is a privilege that few get to experience, and it is precious, and you must cherish it. My boys Aaron and Declan are on tracks like you, and they're following their passion. They're very blessed. The other day we were talking about this speech, and one of them said, Mom, don't talk about rule breaking. That's a cliche today. I'm going to talk about rule breaking. Because rule breaking is necessary to survive and thrive. And if I weren't a rule breaker, I would not be standing here today. I would still be in Donora, where the bridges are imploded, the schools have been torn down, and every business on Main Street has been shuttered. I love that town. I love the community that I grew up in. I love what I discovered there. It's part of my DNA. But I also love that I got out. I am a purposeful rule breaker. That's how I got out. And I'm an inside-outside person. As an entrepreneur, I run my own companies, Sandra Moses Productions and Slam Digital Media. I operate with enormous flexibility to create out in the world, but I also sit inside this rigid structure with studios and networks that have limits on how they have to operate, and therefore how I have to operate. So how do you transcend and go beyond the limits that are imposed on you by a system and the people within that system? You continue to be open to discovery, you listen to your inner voice, and you break rules purposefully. Here's an example. My strength is creativity through analytics and research, those 3 things coupled together. This is the platform that I use to innovate. And I bring things to life for people so they value it, something that they can appreciate, something that they can care about, and something that they can enjoy. It is this lens that I use to look at the world. And 2 years ago, I looked through this lens and I realized that it was time for me to pivot my companies. It was time to go global. What happened in the feature film business 14 years ago, where the international business eclipsed the domestic business, is now happening in television and digital media. And when I shared my global plan with people in Hollywood, everyone said to me, don't do that, don't go there. And the reason they said that is because they felt I would be taking my eye off the ball, spending valuable resources in all the wrong places, and diluting my energy. Over and over, I was told it's impossible. When somebody tells me it's impossible, I'm in. I am so there, because I know it's not impossible. Difficult? Maybe. Frustrating? Sure. Impossible? Nah. Leaping off the cliff and naked and soaring to the sun, and defying gravity, that's impossible. But man-made rules like don't buck the system, those rules are made to be broken. And if I hadn't believed that, I would not have shot content in Paris and Prague and Mexico City this year. I would not have multiple deals with international studios all around the world. I would still be paddling around in the same ecosystem as everybody else in Hollywood. So I purposefully break rules to transcend, from Denora to Capitol Hill, from Capitol Hill to Hollywood, and from Hollywood to the global market. But to transcend, you have to have tools. Your personal story is an exceptionally important tool as you help transcend. We are all divine, unique beings on a heroic journey. And on that journey, we have an opportunity. It's a gift to figure out what our personal story is and to explore that. We dream, we imagine the possibilities, we experiment, we stretch ourselves, and we make mistakes, and we push back on constraints. And sometimes it all adds up and makes sense, and other times it doesn't, and it just falls flat. Regardless, authoring your own story and shaping it and moving through your life is the most important thing. And at the most basic level, it lets you know who you are and lets other people know what you care about. And maybe, just maybe, your story will be at the center of the next shift in the entertainment industry. Remember, take full possession of your story and develop it. A Rumi philosopher once said, "It's your road and yours alone. Others may walk it with you, but no one can walk it for you." Here's another example of a tool that helps me transcend. I created The Vault, which is this amazing group of women like Jane Werman, who created Dermalogica, the largest skincare company in the world, and Regina Dugan, who just left a senior post at Google and is now going to run Facebook's hardware division. A woman is going to go up there and kick ass in the Valley. 14 incredible women who open up each other's brains, help each other, and guide each other as we each transcend. Think about how you can create tools, your own, and that help, inspire, and move you beyond the limits that are imposed on you by a system that you find yourself in. I believe that no matter where you start, at the lowest point like me or George, where's George? George is my escort today. He's an immigrant from Mexico. He dropped out of high school. He graduated from USC, and he's now in the master's program at Annenberg. So whether you've started at a low point where we were, or a higher plane like my sons Aaron and Declan, our obligation to ourselves and the world is to transcend. Transcend personally, professionally, socially, and community-wise, to be effective, successful, and happy. But don't kid yourself, because there are times when you're going to have to transcend the unimaginable. A couple of days ago, I lost my husband, the love of my life. And he passed away unexpectedly. I am transcending before your very eyes. Thank you. I'm very touched. Transcending is not easy, it's hard. And you're gonna fall because that's what happens when you move out of your comfort zone. When I was a kid and I fell, physically or figuratively, my mother would say, get up and get going. She's somewhere in the audience here. And it's amazing because I can say it in the exact octave that she can. It's a little crazy making. Anyway, I say it to my kids, I said it to my husband, I say it to my staff, and I say it to myself. And I am saying this to you. Next week, when you leave the gate, you stumble and you fall. You get up and you get going. You transcend because you are badass and beautiful. And you're gonna love the path to discovery. Thank you.